Chapter Intelligence is a behavior analytics and data collection organization which has a focus on prediction of mental health events through micro-deviations of phone usage behavior. In other words, time for a case study. And this is Chris Eade who is going to present this for us. So, are you ready for doing this?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, the word is yours.
Okay. So I'll just start by saying, what is Zafty? We're a company of two parts. Firstly, we are a technology company that has developed a data collection technology for mobile devices. When I say that, I mean we are able to collect all phone actions and details on what apps are open on the device. Secondly, we are a behavioural intelligence company. So we take this data that we collect and we process it through a range of algorithms to predict behaviours and events. Sorry, more on this shortly, but best I should probably explain why I'm actually here. So if we can go to slide 2, we have been commissioned to build a responsible gambling app for Android and iOS. This will allow people to monitor their phone usage with a focus on gambling apps and use within this category. The app will also provide a comparison statistics to other people of similar demographics to benchmark themselves, allowing them to know if they're a heavy or a light user, specifically regarding gambling habits. We'll also include the option for people to self-manage and restrict app usage through schedules and time limits in the apps. To best understand what our capabilities are, I might provide you a little bit of background. So, on slide 3, we collect and store phone usage patterns through an app, and we send this to our servers in discrete packets. When first installed, our tech will collect a snapshot of the phone device. This will include the make, the model, the network carrier, and a list of all installed applications. It will run a script to generate a unique ID, and this ID is used to store the device on all the data from the device on our servers. The software then tracks every phone unlock and every app that is opened and how much time was spent in each app as front of screen, which is important. That's how we can track it, because you can have apps opened in the background, but this will track front of screen. So which means you can have music streaming, but also be using another app, the gambling app, and we can track that that's the one that's actually been active. All data that is collected is timestamped, and this allows us to compile a complete picture of users' full day of phone usage. Given the average person spends about 3.5 hours daily on their phone, knowing the granular details of what someone has done can give a really deep understanding of the individual. If you think about close to a third of or a quarter of your day is spent on a device, and if you were to give someone full access to everything you've done, just by looking at all that granular detail, I guarantee you come up with something quite interesting about what your behavioural patterns are. On the next slide, over the next 3 years, sorry, can you just go to the next slide after that? Thank you. Over 3 years, we've optimized the software, so it uses negligible battery power and almost no data, so less than 1% of battery. When we first started, it was draining people's battery and it did not work well. We've got it finely tuned at the moment. It's been installed in over 800,000 devices around the world in 141 countries, and it's been translated into 8 languages. So these users have come from a range of different sources, and they're all aware that data has been collected, and they've all consented to their data being collected. The majority of them have come from a usage comparison app that we developed. This allows people to compare their phone usage to others and reduce their dependence on social media. Our initial focus was on social media because we recognise that people do have an issue with that, and it meant that we're able to get a lot of users onto our platform and collect the data for interpretation. All the data that we collect from all these users is anonymous. To date, we've tracked over 920,000 applications installed. That's not our application. We've tracked 920,000 individual other applications that have been installed across devices. We've tracked 58 million app applications opens, and we've collected over 1.4 billion data points. So this data set is utilised as our control database for algorithm research development. It's basically our test bed. It's where we do changes to our technology and we're able to test for bugs, and then we're able to give instant feedback to users as well. We're able to push out notifications to people where we expect or where we find a problem with their behaviour, and we're able to sort of analyse if we're correct or not by them giving us an answer. The data set has been, we've worked with universities, we've worked with Stanford and New York University for research projects. We work closely with the University of Arizona. They provide us with access to their PhD students for algorithm validation. We've had a partnership, we are in a partnership with Lockheed Martin and DARPA. So DARPA is the US military defense research arm. We work with them to try and predict post-traumatic stress disorder in military veterans through an app that we've made specially for them. So as part of this process, we had to redesign our app to meet all the .gov security protocols, which means our software is obviously very safe and secure. That's been a large part of our work up till now, because the PTSD and mental health, which has been our core focus. And so it's been going on for a couple of years. We've developed significant IP and recognises this IP, although it's in mental health and PTSD, can be applied to a range of behavioural situations. On the next slide, we've been fine-tuning our algorithms to baseline user behaviours, and then we monitor micro-deviations from these patterns to predict mental health events. There is a direct correlation between this work and problem gambling. We monitor 7 key phone actions for deviations from a baseline state. So, for example, we do first time of day use, last time of day use of their phone, new apps are installed, number of steps if available, mix of applications used, social media use, messaging use. We can predict sleep patterns through time of day use and movement sensors, and exercise patterns, as most people log their exercise on an app. So standalone, we can get a bit of an insight from changes to these patterns, and you can sort of tell if someone's having disrupted sleep because they're checking their phone in the middle of the night and checking social media. But it's not as a standalone basis where we can really get much value. When we combine 2 or more of the tracked metrics, we can identify correlations of changes, and then we can identify a period of stress or a mental health event. So that can be depression, PTSD. One of the aspects that we've found not easy to identify, but the easiest thing we've been able to find has been someone that suffers from bipolar disorder who goes off medication because their behaviour becomes extremely erratic for periods of times, and then they're in their manic episode and they go to the depressed state. So we've been working with the Department of Health here in Australia trying to track that on a range of people's devices as well. The challenge we have with gambling is that people who install this app may already be in a state of stress, or we may not be able to baseline their behaviour because they might be installing this because they recognise that they already have a problem. So we have overcome this before. We did the same thing. We had the same issue when we were tracking PTSD because we didn't know what state someone was in. In the perfect world, people would install the software, we'd be able to see everything they've done, track their sort of normal usage for 3 or 4 weeks, and then look for deviations from this. We don't think this is going to be possible with the gambling app. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to use in comparisons to other users on the platform, so against their broad peers, to see how they deviate. And then we'll take this and do a cluster analysis of their behaviour against our large data set of the other users that we have. So the other data set is so broad and so large that we can drill down into this to find subsets and clusters to find matches, and then look at the behaviour differences. So to provide an example and a visualisation, we actually have a video that you can watch which sort of tries to show how our algorithms interpret it and a bit of the data depth. So if you'd like to play that.
The following is an example of how Zafty identifies mental health issues. This sample data is from a 29-year-old male living in California. The top section details individual app usage and the amount of time in each app, whereas the bottom section shows the total daily phone use. From this you can see a dramatic spike has occurred. We have multiple algorithms monitoring for deviations. Others look deeper to examine what has changed. Firstly, browser usage increased dramatically, and a private browser app was downloaded and installed. YouTube and Netflix has doubled. Movement sensors have dropped, Step count is only 20% of long-term average. 3 work days have been missed. We have learned his work patterns and locations. Perhaps he is ill or on leave. But there is more. When looking at social media, suddenly Twitter and Instagram are being opened again. Use of WhatsApp and Telegram increase. Discord starts being opened. A range of new apps are used. Psychology test apps, couple quizzes, personality matches, 2 dating apps are briefly installed and used, and holidays are looked into. What does this all mean? We predict that on the 3rd or 4th of November, this user went through a breakup. They've called in sick to work. They've been looking at social media, perhaps stalking their ex, and searching for answers as to why the relationship ended, and looking to get away on a holiday. This is a small portion of what we do. Additionally, we look at hourly usage of phones, every unlock, every app open, and the amount of time in each app. This is baselining behaviour patterns. For example, here is Facebook, and here is WhatsApp. Now we can watch for deviations. We actively track exercise patterns through apps. This user likes to run every other day. Our system watches for behavioural patterns and monitors for changes continually. With technology on over 700,000 devices, Zafty is using advanced algorithms to passively predict mental health events through a single app.
That's an interesting video. The data came from a study we're doing with NYU at the time, and it was a blind study for us. We were able to tag people's data, and then we sort of broadly ran our algorithms and tried to find predictive patterns in them. The interesting thing was we discovered a few things about a few different people. One of them, we predicted drug use. Offhand, the algorithm picked up that there was really erratic behaviour from what they'd had. We'd had a long-term study on this. They'd been using it for 6 weeks. And then in the last few weeks, something strange started happening with people. But it just shows that what you can drill down to with the insights. The visualization, we use the visualization tools that we have to, it helps reinforce and confirm what our algorithms are telling us, especially in some events. So that sort of helps a little bit. We move on to the next bit about privacy on the next slide. So privacy is paramount with something like this. People, as you would know from that data I just showed in the video, you can learn an incredible amount about someone's life by real granular phone data. So that last case, we had location data. We don't always collect that. But so for this gambling app, privacy is very important because we're dealing with someone that we may be dealing with something that is very personal, and people don't want us or anybody else to know what's going on in their life. They might be struggling with it themselves and keeping it close to their chest. So with this app, there will be no registration process. There'll be no collection of phone number, and there's no collection of email. So essentially, when the app is installed, it's done. You just open it up and you're up and running after a couple of onboarding screens to explain how it works. All data that we collect is stored against a device ID, and this device ID cannot be retrieved from the phone app, and it's encrypted. So the data is specific to this device ID, and as a result, the data cannot be transferred. It is device specific, so you couldn't have an account and log in somewhere else and find this data. We actually couldn't even find it if you asked us to. So the only way we could ever identify a user and their data would be if we had their handset, and that would be us running sort of a pattern of opening a range of apps and then running an associated script on our database to find this pattern, finding their user ID, and then trying to pull out all of their data. So it's very hard for us and for anybody, it's near impossible for anybody to actually get someone's data. So we're also not collecting any location data. We're not even doing cell tower data. We're not doing anything. So we're very, very clear that we're not collecting any information and tagging location on anything. We do not collect internet search history or browser history. Again, that can be quite personal for people, especially the search side. And on the server side, we also turn off tracking of particular apps. So we've done this broadly over the last couple of years. We've got a list of applications that we just do not track. There can be simple things like wallpaper apps and alarms and sleep monitors that can skew people's usage time. And then there are other apps that we don't collect because it can cause people embarrassment. So we don't want some app showing up as being used in their data. So we've excluded that and it just never shows up. So to summarize, all the data we collect is anonymous, all the users are anonymous, and we don't collect any personally identifiable information. And we view that as crucial, and we must explain that to any user of the app for them to give them confidence that they can use this tool free from anybody else finding out what they're doing. Additionally, the users can delete their data with a single click from within the app. So we explain this to them when the app is first installed. So with a single click, our servers will instantly delete all stored data that we have on this person, and then it's gone. They can keep the app. It will essentially reset it if they want to, but it's usually used as a tool when they want to uninstall it. So the data will be gone. So let's talk about the app on the next slide. So the app will have a simple dashboard as the initial interface. This dashboard, it's to provide people a score based upon their phone usage, which again runs on a separate algorithm of comparison of their usage to other people. It will also include charts, which will detail how their daily usage is comparing to others. It will calculate the average gambling app usage and compare this to others, which is one of the most important parts because it will allow someone to benchmark themselves. And they can also compare their average phone unlocks. It will also give tips on reducing phone usage. So when we're trying to benchmark themselves, many people would, if they viewed that they may have an issue with gambling, they may not be aware of where they stand. They may be, compared to others, they might be a really heavy user or they might be a really light user. And for the first time, this would give them sort of an anonymous way of comparing themselves. Do I have an issue? Do I not? Obviously, if they're installing the app, you would think most people might be wondering that question. So this app will answer that question relatively quickly for them once we've got their average users. On the next slide, we'll just talk about some of the blocking modes that we're going to put in there. So just go to the next one. So the app will have three optional, very important that we talk about these. These are optional modes that are built in. So there will be a blacklist within the app, within the gambling app. And what you do, the users will put any app that they want to restrict access to onto this blacklist. So they can use that will then help them limit or reduce access to these apps on the blacklist. So gambling apps, for example, are going to be combined as a category and they'll be the number one item on this. So the blacklist will have a list of every application that's on the phone, but gambling will be at the top and it will be a category and it will capture every app they have installed or any future app that they have installed and automatically put them on the blacklist. They'll then have three methods that they can use to reduce access or limit access. They could set a daily limit. And so, for example, I might set a limit for an hour a day. And when anything on the blacklist has been used for 1 hour, access to all those apps is blocked. So in real world with gambling, you might say, well, I can use it for an hour a day. And then once you use it for an hour, it blocks you. They can, of course, circumvent that block. We're not stopping them. It's more like maybe it's time to consider. You've set yourself a personal limit. You want to break that limit, you can, but realise what you're doing. Alternatively, they can set a schedule which blocks access to those blacklisted apps during select times of the day of the week and time of the day. So you might, from 6 to 8, you might block all those apps because it's family time with dinner or something like that. And finally, there's a third blocking mode, which is a timer, which is a short-term instant block on everything on the blacklist for your set time period. So if you thought you were having a few issues, if you think about you have a self-exclusion register, this would be like a personal self-exclusion for the next 2 hours. I put on a timer and it's going to block my access to these applications for the next 2 hours. We view this as a really important part to empower the users to actively try to reduce their gambling habits if they feel they've got a problem. And from our other applications where we have blocking modes, we've worked out that a lot of people really do actively use them. They may not actually trigger the modes, but they feel a bit accountable because they they've set a goal and they know if they're going to go over that goal of usage, that they're going to get blocked, so they don't go near. So on the next slide, there's just a few other features I'd like to talk about. Access to the app is restricted by PIN entry. So if somebody unlocked the phone, they can't just go in and look at and check the other person's usage. They have to know the PIN number to get in. It's just a little thing, but it is, again, important. There are a number of interactive charts which the user can play with. They can plot app usage, which can be the number of times each app was open. It includes number of time, the total time in apps. It includes phone unlocks. They can chart this over a day to look at their patterns for each hour of the day, over a week, and even over 30 days to try and find trends. It will show them a full list of all the applications they've opened, time in each one over those time periods that they've chosen. So they can really get a bit of an understanding about what they've been doing. There will be inbuilt alerts and notifications if we flag potential problem behavior. So this will be our algorithms running in the background that will send an alert on the top of it. It'll do two things. It will send a notification to them if they choose to allow us to send them a notification saying perhaps you have something's going on. You should consider what your behavior is right now. And do you need to adjust something? Is everything okay? And within the app, it will also include an alert. One of the things we are going to be doing, so there'll also be addiction quizzes within the app. Again, just tools, self-help tools to enable people to sort of work out where they stand and if they think they have an issue. One of the things we are doing is when someone first installs the app, we're asking them for a reason why they're installing this. So this might be, I'm trying to reduce my gambling because I'm saving for a holiday. I've made a promise to my partner that I'm going to reduce. It affects the way I am with my children. There can be a range of reasons that will be pre-programmed that they can select in a little drop-down list, and they can select multiple methods of these. And so if we flag potential problem behavior, we'll be using this reason that they originally selected as a motivation for them to sort of change their behavior if we flag that they are experiencing problem behavior. So with the algorithms, one of the key correlations we'll be looking at won't just be the individual app opens and the patterns of those. It's going to also be things like correlations between gambling apps and bank applications. So they might be gambling, putting more money into the gambling site, going backwards and forwards and things like that. So we will learn those behaviors. Our algorithms will learn those behaviors once we're up and running. We've got real data. And then once we've got that data, we'll be cross-checking it and running them on our large data set and pushing out notifications to some of those people saying, do you think you might have a problem with that? And if we can confirm that they're correct, they'll get rolled out as a live algorithm across the responsible gambling app. So on to the next slide. Where are we today? Oh, actually, so some of the technical details first. Android, we're able to collect highly granular information. And that allows very, very detailed algorithm analysis. So correlation analysis and all sorts of things that we can do to really develop algorithms and work out and help them learn patterns and understand behaviors and flag those behaviors. With iOS, we're very limited in some of the data. iOS is a very closed system, doesn't really open itself up. So what we do is we take our Android algorithms and we distill them down so that we can find matching data collection points that will match with what we can get from iOS. And so when we've got that, we can still do in-depth iOS analysis without the associated data depth. So it's a trick that we learned from our work with Lockheed Martin. So we're able to sort of get these very complex algorithms and then take away all the noise that sort of help drive it and distill it down to make it a simple method for using iOS. So that's our focus as well. Where we are today, we've commenced the build and it will be completed within 3 months. We'll have a working prototype very, very soon. And initially it'll be launched in English and French. We've built it in a method that is very easy to translate into multiple languages and it's very, very flexible. So there's a lot that I can sort of talk about. I don't really want to ramble on, though. I guess one of the important things is we view this tool as, well, what our role in this is, we're not trying to stop people gambling. We're just trying to give people a tool that allows them to compare their habits and allows them to self-regulate their usage if they feel they might have a problem. So we're going to, the measure for us as a company in terms of success will be measuring the impact of pattern changes on users who have installed the app. So we know that from other services and other things that we run, that when somebody installs the app that monitors their usage over the first couple of weeks, they really change their behaviour. So, and then after that, they sort of return back to a little bit more of the norm. So even if someone installs this and temporarily changes their behaviour, it's a wake up check or a reality check, we think that's an important part, because there's no simple solution for people that are problem gamblers. But if this is just forms of one little piece that helps, it's the same thing we've been doing in our mental health work. We're not the solution for people, but we are one little piece that, with others combined, helps people along to get through problem areas that they have. So we're really excited about what we're building. We can't wait to dive into the data deep and apply our algorithms and have some, I love data. It's a bit unusual, but I love interpreting data and understanding data. And then we find those patterns and helping people is one of the key things. So I guess do we have questions, Lydia?
Yes, we have questions. Okay. So, Chris, first to you. I mean, representing the developers' perspectives, surely Safety and you has experienced some degree of frustration to regards the regulations. So I was wondering, do you have any question to the regulators panel coming up?
Yeah. Well, yes, I do. Well, I guess, do the regulators think that they have the right capabilities to make use of AI to have a sustainable gambling market?
So, sorry, could you repeat the question? I didn't hear you clearly.
Do the regulators think that they have the right capabilities to make use of AI to make a sustainable gambling market?
Perfect. I think actually two of the panelists heard that question. Anyway, thank you for now, Chris. Very interesting. Good luck in Melbourne, and we'll continue here. Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye-bye.